Hey, what's up guys? Chucks here, welcome back to more Witch on the Holy Night. Last time we got fucking Alco gave him a fucking collar, which he accepted happily. Also, just gotta check archives really quick to make sure there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing there, okay. And yeah, the collar thing, yeah, I did a short session last time, so that's really all that happened. And then we're on to a calm morning. The sun shining through the window was bright. It was just about 9 o'clock, about time for the morning television programs to get going. Sojiro was sitting on the sofa, staring out the window at the scene outside. The view from the neighboring sunroom showed a courtyard in a state of disrepair. Sojiro could appreciate the outdoors in both its natural, wild state and when tamed by human hands. Yeah, I guess you do. I'm just confused because I thought, even though it was a deleted scene, I thought him cleaning it before in that one scene would have still happened. But I guess it was just omitted, like, retconned completely, I guess. Oh, I meant to mention at the very start, but Tsukihime Remake Part 1 got announced to be coming to the West with an English translation. So, you know, hype for that. Like I mentioned at the end of the original Tsukihime when I played it, I thought the original Tsukihime was like a 6 out of 10. Wasn't great because things like writing was iffy and like felt rushed in areas as far as like romance goes. But yeah, I've heard like the roots, the Arcwood and CL roots combined is like total like almost the same length of all 5 roots from the original, so that's pretty exciting. But yeah, no, I just want to mention that since that was announced on Sunday at AX, so. But yeah. Sojiro muttered to himself, turning another page in his textbook. On the table before him was a mathematics textbook and a notebook with Alco's name on it. Although at first glance, he appeared to be a diligent student studying on his day off, he was, in truth, only doing so as a compromise. Okay, a compromise of what? He had given up on his main intent of watching the morning television shows. Oh, because last time Alice told him to keep it quiet, and then it said that he would find out soon why she said that, so I guess something happened. The reason why he gave up was simple. He was being considerate of Alice, who sat in front of him with her nose buried in a book. Oh, I thought Alice was... Actually, know what? Now that I think about it, no, I guess she didn't show any intention of leaving, huh? Okay, yeah, you know, I guess. For some reason, I thought she was going to a different room, but no, I guess. Yeah, thinking about it, she never indicated that, so my mistake. Instead of pulling herself up in her room, she brought out her dusty old... Oh, maybe I'm not misremembering. Maybe she did get up, but maybe she just literally went to get the books, I guess. Instead of pulling herself up in her room, she brought out her old dusty books to read. This is what she meant when she said to keep quiet. Okay. When she said to keep quiet. Sojiro found it difficult to turn on the TV. Yeah. Yeah, to be fair, if I was in his position, the only way I would turn on the TV is if it was fully muted, just to have like something visually happening in the background. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think I could bring myself to turn the volume up at all either, if I was him. With that decided, Sojiro resigned himself to reviewing some of the practice problems he'd gotten wrong. In the drawing room, for some reason. There wasn't any particular purpose in doing it there. but he also had no real reason to study back up in his room. True. And so there he was, leisurely highlighting his textbook with Alice there in the same room. To Sojiro, there really was no difference between his room in the attic and the drawing room with Alice. To be fair, he could probably live with the tiger as long as he didn't cause any trouble. Yeah, I could see that. That was both Sojiro's biggest strength and his biggest weakness. Before he knew it, the clock was showing 11. He'd spent 2 hours doing his math problems, but wasn't even halfway finished. More than that, he was disappointed in himself for lacking the courage to speak up at all. He dropped his mechanical pencil onto the notebook and watched it roll away. He knew that Aoko and Alice were busy with something since final exams had ended. He also knew that she had hardly gotten any sleep recently. If she'd been able to ignore him during the exams, she probably would have had an easier time. That's an understatement. Today's nap was probably the first proper sleep Aoko had gotten in days. Though she showed no signs of exhaustion despite the fact that she must have hit peak long ago. She always seemed raring to go. It wasn't that she was trying to act tough. That was just the kind of person she was. Always positive, always tough as nails. And that was exactly why she came off as completely irrational at times. But if that was the case, you could probably describe Alice in exactly the same way. Sojiro couldn't help but feel a bit inadequate when he saw their single-minded focus on their goals. I mean, to be fair, being single-minded in one purpose was kind of drilled into them from a young age. You know, being descendants of Magi and all. He'd been so preoccupied with adjusting to his new life that he neglected to think about what he was going to do with himself after. I mean, you're not even gonna remember having the thoughts about what to do after anyway, so it's like, does it really matter? Thinking about this cast a gloomy cloud over his heart. He felt like he'd never find a clear purpose in life like Aoko and Alice seemed to have. At least, not since he left the mountains. His old life was gone now, never to return. He was like a kite cut from its string, destined to fly only where the winds took it. And without anything to ground him, he couldn't do anything about the empty future that lay ahead. He could only let himself fly where the currents took him, slowly losing sight of the ground below. The town was full of options, but he could find nothing. He'd asked himself the same questions time and time again. So I just had to turn up my audio really quick. It never made him feel any better. If anything, it only made him feel worse and worse. That, or maybe he felt that lamenting his own ineptitude would lead to finding some kind of goal or desire someday. Okay. Tired of his own sniveling, Sojiro dejectedly closed his notebook. When he looked up, he saw his own face reflected back at him in the TV screen. His new collar was there around his neck, looking as out of place as ever. He's like, perhaps a fool like him who felt weak when faced with other strengths didn't need to wear a collar after all. No, Sojiro. Yeah. He shook off his thoughts of doom and gloom and sat up straight. After psyching himself up a little, he stood up from the sofa.
Yoshi. 何か作るけど、アリスは?
Sojiro asked casually. Well, Sojiro had been doing his own thing. He had remained mindful of Alice. Alice looked up, surprised at hearing her name. She had completely forgotten Sojiro was even there.
私
Yeah, you're the only Alice here. I think anyway.
ああ、アリス朝から紅茶しか飲んでないだろ。どうせ作るならいっぱい作った方がお得なんだ。
Yeah, that's true. Without waiting for her reply, Sojiro headed off to the kitchen while putting on his apron. Alice tried to wave at him to stop, but by then he'd already disappeared into the kitchen. She was hesitant to walk all the way in there just to tell him she didn't need anything. Aoko was talking to him in the from here to the kitchen just last session, actually. Like, you just raise your voice a little bit, you can do it. You don't have to go in there. And besides, she was actually hungry. Yeah, okay. Fair. Sojiro's proposal made sense, and her empty stomach agreed. Alice was hungry, and Sojiro was going to make lunch. Making lunch for both of them would save the time and trouble of cooking 2 separate meals. There was no logical reason for Alice to refuse his gesture. Yeah? But do you trust him to make your food? Because at this point, I don't think he's... Like, has he made dinner for them up to this point? Other than bringing stuff home? I think every time they've talked about food, it's that the Alice or Aoko having made some disastrous meal that can barely be called that. So, yeah, maybe it's a trust thing is why she's... Okay. She decided to stay quiet and tacitly accept his offer. Or okay, yeah, I guess I'm wrong. I don't know. I thought she'd be mistrusting. I mean, you live together. He's gonna make food. Why would he? You know, I don't see how that's strange. To be honest, I can maybe see why it's strange for her, but yeah, no, I don't see anything wrong with his decision here. She whispered the words softly, not for anyone in particular to hear but herself. Yeah. The truth was, however, Alice had been in a bad mood all morning. Okay. After checking all the sigils around Misaki City and boarding the first train back from Tokawa, all she wanted to do was spend the rest of her day reading until the words turned into a jumble. Her iron resolve to complete this task would not be interrupted by someone else milling about in the drawing room. This was her mansion, and there was no way she was going to lock herself up in her room on account of Sojiro. However, with that said, she knew it would be wrong to kick Sojiro out for no real reason. Okay. As it stood, Sojiro had actually kept quiet like she'd asked. He wasn't in the wrong here. If Alice had really wanted to be alone, she should have gone to her room.
静かにしてじゃなくて一人にさせてと言うべきだった。
Wait. Hang on, but just like 5 minutes ago, it said she hadn't even realized he was here. The dialogue is like conflicting. Okay. Alice had defiantly stayed in the drawing room despite realizing the dilemma she'd put herself in. She had figured Sojiro would eventually make a ruckus and run off to hide in his attic room. Her assumption could not have been more wrong. Sojiro never left the drawing room. Moreover, she had actually stopped caring that he was there. Okay, never mind. It didn't... It did conflict. It just I was a little too quick to judge. Okay, my bad. Though he hadn't paid her any attention, he hadn't ignored her either. They had simply sat in silence together without any awkwardness. That's good. Alice felt the freedom of being alone, along with the comfort of someone being by her side. To put it into words, Sojiro was just that kind of person. That was probably the only reason Alice had been able to sleep so soundly with him there next to her. Yeah? Oh, you thinking about sleeping next to him more often? Nah, I'm sorry. Never mind. Sojiro continued cooking in the kitchen, oblivious to the thoughts that went through Alice's head. She couldn't see him from the drawing room, but she could easily imagine him cooking in the kitchen.
変な人ね。トミ。
Yeah, you said that already. Alice resumed reading after unwittingly stating her feelings out loud a second time. Oh, it's, yeah. The sunlight beaming into the drawing room showed that it was noon. The sunlight actually looked warm, despite it being a cloudy winter day. Just as noon struck, Sojiro returned to the drawing room with 2 sets of plates. Some food of an indescribable color was piled in the large, cream-colored plates. What in the hell is that?
これは
I can't tell if that's supposed to look good or bad, to be honest. She hadn't expected much. And since she also hadn't requested anything, she could just refuse if it was something she didn't want. But this food left her at a loss for words despite psyching herself up. Okay, so bad then.
これは何？
I think it is just a bunch of vegetables thrown together in a pan and stir-fried, with no, like, rhyme or reason to flavor. Alice spoke as though she was terrified. Wait, is that a purple miasma coming from it? Or is that just, like, the background color making it look purple and it's just regular smoke? I'm going to choose to believe it is a dangerous purple miasma, and not normal smoke. Alice spoke as though she was terrified of what had been placed before her. She probably is.
何って焼きうどんに何かかけてみた。
Yeah, that checks out. If Alco had been there, she probably would have punched him. I like the little floating Alice. She's just like floating away. Oh god. But Sojiro just confidently placed the 2 large plates on the table. Let me guess though, it looks weird, but it tastes delicious. Steam billowed from the mountain of food like an angry volcano ready to erupt at any moment. The thick mystery sauce flowed over the plates as magma might from said eruption. And below it all were a seemingly infinite number of slimy, tentacle-like noodles. Yeah, I guess he doesn't do any cooking at the place, only deliveries and dishwashing. There was really nothing more to say about it. This was clearly the food of a poor, struggling student who favored quantity over quality. I mean, not wrong. All that was required was a basic recipe, the will to cook something, and what few ingredients were needed. The pile of stir-fried noodles with sauce slathered on top was so horrifically bad, it was almost an art form. This was a bachelor's cooking if you'd ever seen it. Y'all can't, okay. Y'all can't really judge though. You and Alco, like, come on. Like, we've seen your food. There was really nothing else you could call it. How about a hard-cooked meal that someone went out of their way to make for you? I'm still of the, belief, though, that she's gonna end up tasting it. It's actually gonna taste good. She had wondered what he was doing for an hour in there, and it turned out he'd been making the sauce. What's in the sauce? No sauce would have been fine, but Sojiro had wholeheartedly gone the extra mile. Sojiro bowed his head slightly and picked up his chopsticks. He had brought a fork for Alice. I mean, that's nice of him. Knowing your preferences of utensil. She picked up the fork and stuck it into the noodles, half drowning in sauce. Sojiro began eating, not seeming to care that Alice sat there looking like she was about to eat poison. Seeming to view this as a challenge, Alice furrowed her brow and slowly brought the mass of noodles to her mouth. It was a little salty and ugly to look at, but it didn't taste all that bad. If anything, it was actually pretty good. Oh, go away, DualShock before battery level low. Hang on, where's my... Oh, there it is. Just plug it in so it doesn't die on me. There we go. Yeah, it's actually pretty good.
一つ聞きたいんだけど。
Sojo put down his chopsticks and turned to speak to Alice.
実際の話、魔術師の話はともかくとして、青崎はまだ誰にも手を出してないんじゃないか。
Probably not. Alice looked up quietly at the sudden question. She had been inspecting Sojo's meal, but now she looked straight at him.
おかしなことを聞くのね、しずきくんは。
アリスには悪いけど、これは青崎本人には聞きようのないことだから、言いたくなければ答えないでくれ。
Alice didn't respond. Sojo resumed eating, not seeming disappointed. Alice stared blankly at him, slurping his noodles. After much hesitation, she replied,
しずきくんの言う通り、青子はまだ人を殺したことはないわ。その行為自体は何回かこなしてはいるけれど。
Alice's response was slow and measured. Sojo still looked troubled. But not at the conversation they were having. Rather, he looked apologetic towards Alice. He'd said she didn't have to answer if she didn't want to. But Alice kept talking despite the face he was making.
しずきくんが見た公園での出来事が青子にとって初めての殺人行為よ。
Oh no! I didn't mean to skip her dialogue. Actually, wait. I can fix that, right?
しずきくんが見た公園での出来事が青子にとって初めての殺人行為よ。あいにく相手は人形だったけど。
Okay. I thought she was done. That's why I clicked X. But yeah. Sojo silently nodded. Alice narrowed her eyes at him suspiciously.
まるで初めから分かっていたそぶりね。
Yeah, she was too hesitant.
そうじゃん。いや、そうなのかな。たまにその手のセリフを言うけど、何か違う気がしたんだ。だから多分、青崎はまだ人殺しというのを体験していないんじゃないかって。
Implying you know what it feels and sounds like when someone has killed someone. Sojo?
でもまあ、そんなことよりもっと確かなのは、
しずきくんが今生きているということね。
Yeah. Sojo chuckled at Alice's stellar response. Exactly. Things would have been more clear-cut that night if Aliko had actually killed someone before. Yeah, I've heard things like that. When someone's killed someone, it, as fucked up as it is, becomes easier the like second, third, fourth times around. Sojo would have been dead before he ever saw her face. For better or for worse, Aliko remained inexperienced in spite of her ruthlessness and decisiveness. Sojo relaxed his shoulders. His stern face gradually returned to its normal, carefree state. Then...
でも、そんなことは関係ないわ。あの子はそのあたりが異常だから。行為は理性に、経験は知識でたやすく補ってしまう。そうね。青子はその気になれば、迷うことなく人の命に手を出せる。しずきくん風に言うのならだけど。
I don't know if I agree with her or not. And with that, Alice went back to twirling noodles around her fork. She looks like she's having fun, Sojiro thought as he ruminated over what she just said. She was rational enough to accept herself despite acting against society's morals, and possessed of an intellect that exceeded even the confidence gained through experience. Had Aoko been raised to utilize her logic and reason to forge reality from fiction? I don't know. If that was the case, then perhaps they really were different from Sojiro.
すまない。こんなことを聞いたのは青崎には内緒にしておいてくれないか。
Sojiro seemed serious, as if he really regretted asking. Alice's expression remained unchanged, but she had never intended on saying anything to Aoko anyway.
ありがとう。なんだかアリスには内緒話ばかり溜まっていくね。
Well, to be fair, that one other conversation wasn't really secret, because Aoko was, spying. But yeah. Bro, I swear to God, she's blushing. Am I crazy? Am I the only one that sees that? I swear there is the faintest touch of a blush on her cheeks. Right below her eyes. I swear to God, I'm not hallucinating. Sojiro went back to eating his food. Though Alice still only had a single bite, he was already scraping his clean.
そういえば青崎にも聞いたんだけど、アリスと青崎はいつもああなのか？
Sojiro had suddenly decided to change the topic of conversation. His new topic was the rather cold and dry relationship between Aoko and Alice. Aoko said their relationship was normal, but maybe Alice had a different opinion.
会話が少ないことを言っているのならそうなるわ。けど別に不便じゃないから。
Doesn't it? I guess not. Alice was still twirling her noodles with a fork as she gave her concise answer. Around and around the noodles went, but none made it into her mouth.
不便じゃないって、そういうの仲がいいって言わないんじゃないのか。
Kind of. But also no, but also yes.
私と青子の仲が良くないと、しずきくんは困るの？
Yeah, probably. Sojiro swallowed his words at Alice's perplexed reply. It would actually, but he wasn't sure how to respond when asked so directly.
いや、なんかこっちの考え方が悪かったみたいだ。もうその話題には触れないことにしたから忘れてくれ。それより、アリス。
Oh, he got serious all of a sudden again. He went from serious to lighthearted to, well, kind of lighthearted, sort of, to more serious again. Sojiro gave Alice a piercing stare that was more intense than any time they'd talked before. Alice was taken slightly aback at the unusually intense look in his eyes. Unusually intense look. Her face became slightly flushed out of nervousness. Nobody besides Aoko had ever stared at her like this before. Whether or not he noticed, Sojiro waited a few moments before speaking slowly and with complete conviction. Uh-huh.
それ、食べないなら欲しいんだけど。
Ain't no way! What the? So, he got all intense and serious, looked straight in the eye. Mind if can I eat that? You gonna finish that? She's like, what a fucking dumbass. An awkward silence followed. She's gonna start, like, scarfing you down out of fucking spite, isn't she?
悪いけど。
No, okay, that time I didn't even mean to fucking hit the button.
悪いけど、これ、私のだから。
Okay. Shizuki had cooked it, sure, but Alice wasn't wrong. He had made it for her, after all. There was a slight tinge of anger in her voice, but even she wasn't sure why it was there.
そうだね。少し意地汚かった。
Like, what? That makes me wonder, what was she expecting him to say? Sojiro plopped himself down on the sofa. Wait, he stood up? Okay. Or maybe he got up to reach over the table in case she said yes. I guess. This must have looked particularly pathetic to Alice, since she responded with,
材料はもう残ってないの?
Oh. She quickly covered her mouth. Apparently she'd surprised even herself. It was quite unusual for her to ask something like that.
残ってないよ。青崎の分も作っちゃったから。
Alice is gonna be like, you can eat hers. It's fine. Sojiro stared a bit regretfully at Alice's plate as he responded. Alice could have just let it go, but for some reason she felt the need to speak up again.
青子なら眠っているけど。
Oh, he's being all sly, like, Aoko ain't here, you know.
いや、もうすぐ起こすから。起きた後で作らされるより、一緒に作っておいた方が楽だしね。
Yeah, true. Why eat that? Just have to make something for her again. Like...
と、もうすぐ1時か。ちょうどいい。行って起こしてくるよ。
青子は起こしたら殺すって言ってたけど。
Yes, but the promise of food will probably appease her. Probably. Alice wasn't sure why Sojiro was willing to take such a risk. Sojiro agreed, but started walking anyway. We do not speak of that voice crack. Y'all hear me? No one say a goddamn thing, okay?
でもさ、今起こしておかないと、やっぱり後で殺される運命にあると思うんだ。
Yeah, I mean... knowing Aoko, yeah, probably. His words were surprisingly affectionate. Leaving Alice with only that, Sojiro headed to Aoko's room. Alice watched him leave in silence before taking another bite of the stir-fried noodles. Glancing at the door to the hallway to make sure nobody was coming, she took another bite. She repeated that process many times before finishing her food. It was then that she heard Aoko's wrath coming from the second floor. Alice stood up and began solemnly clearing the table, feeling a bit sorry for what Sojiro was dealing with. She knew she didn't really have to, but she felt like it was the least she could do for him. She never really expected to feel this way. Uh-huh. But he cooked for her, and it was surprisingly good. Almost enough to make her forget how bad he was at making tea. Almost, though. Just almost. I could have just finished this last time. And just had a nearly hour video instead of like a 25 and 35. Damn it. Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, that's gonna do it. That was actually a very short chapter, wasn't it? It was just... yeah, that was quite short. But we did get another archive scene, I believe. I think that's what that pop-up was. Let me check. Yeah. Chapter 8.5, The Carnegie Case. Okay. Interesting. So that's what we'll be doing next time then. But for now, I want to thank you all for watching. And yeah, I'll catch you next time for chapter 8.5. Later.